Frank Shamrock, the overlooked pioneer of MMA. In the world of mixed martial arts, debates about the greatest of all time often ignite passionate discussions. Names like Conor McGregor, Georges St-Pierre, and Khabib Nurmagomedov frequently dominate the conversation. But what if I told you that one of the sport's biggest pioneers, Frank Shamrock, has nearly faded into obscurity? Known as the first UFC middleweight champion and celebrated for his groundbreaking skills and strategies, Shamrock's remarkable contributions often go unnoticed. This exploration will uncover the thrilling highs and sobering lows of his career, revealing the layers behind a champion whose story is both inspiring and intriguing. Could it be that the narrative of MMA is incomplete without him? Let's delve into the life and legacy of Frank Shamrock, the fighter who paved the way but often remains in the shadows. The emergence of a champion. To fully appreciate Frank Shamrock's profound influence on mixed martial arts, we must rewind to the chaotic atmosphere of the 1990s. This was a time when the sport emerged from the underground, initially branded as brutal, blood-soaked entertainment. In this turbulent arena, Shamrock appeared as a beacon of hope and skill, quickly capturing the hearts of fans and creating die-hard followers. He didn't just enter the cage, he revolutionized it. Trained in various disciplines such as wrestling, kickboxing, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Shamrock became a formidable force. His diverse skill set allowed him to adapt, innovate, and introduce new techniques that would later define the sport. He was the quintessential mixed martial artist, blending styles seamlessly, leaving opponents baffled and audiences mesmerized. But his rise wasn't solely about physical prowess. Shamrock had the charisma and energy to captivate both inside and outside the ring. Every match and performance emanated an intensity that engaged fans and drew in newcomers. As he became the first UFC middleweight champion and defended his title multiple times, elite fighters from various disciplines marveled at his techniques and sought to replicate his success. However, as Shamrock made his name, a glaring conflict brewed in the background. The rapidly changing nature of the sport began to weigh on him. As new rules and regulations emerged to legitimize MMA, Shamrock found himself grappling with whether he could continue to thrive in a game evolving at lightning speed. The pressure intensified, yet it was a challenge he seemed ready to embrace. What truly set Shamrock apart was his intensity and dedication. He was not just a fighter, he was a pioneer carving out space for future generations. But behind this remarkable ascent lay uncertainties and questions that would fuel the drama of his career. And just when it seemed Shamrock had the world at his feet, the tides began to turn, hinting at conflicts and challenges that would soon course through the veins of his legacy. How he faced those hurdles would define not only his career but the path of mixed martial arts for years to come. Chapter 2: The Duality of Fame. As Frank Shamrock ascended the ranks of mixed martial arts, he found himself in a surreal dance with fame, where triumphs and trials coexisted in striking contrast. On one hand, he was celebrated as a groundbreaking champion, often regarded as the face of a blossoming sport. Fans were captivated by his mesmerizing skill set, flexibility in combat, and strategic mindset, qualities that set him apart from his contemporaries. Shamrock was living proof that mixed martial arts could be both an art and a science. But beneath the surface, shadows lurked. The fame that could have been a blessing quickly morphed into a demanding beast. The relentless pressure of maintaining his stature bore heavily on him, leading to a constant struggle with expectations. With each victory, the stakes grew higher, transcending merely winning fights. It became about sustaining an image, and with that came the danger of losing oneself. Shamrock grappled not only against formidable opponents in the cage but also against the insidious nature of public scrutiny and the self-doubt it engendered. Adding to this tumultuous ride was Shamrock's complicated relationship with the powers that be in the UFC. As he advanced his career, his outspoken nature often clashed with UFC President Dana White's vision for the promotion. Accusations of mismanagement, differences in direction for the sport, and personal grievances brewed tension that would not remain confined. Fans watched closely, witnessing an evolving rivalry played out in the media, feeding into the already contentious narrative surrounding Shamrock's legacy. And while he stood in the limelight, another battle brewed behind closed doors, his ongoing struggle with his own identity. Fame isn't just a badge of honor, it can also be a reflection of inner turmoil. Shamrock battled memories of a tumultuous childhood, a past punctuated by instability and loss that often resurfaced at unexpected moments. With fame came aggrandizement, yet in the confines of his mind, whispers of inadequacy echoed. The duality of fame created a complex tapestry woven from triumph and despair, blurring the lines between celebration and isolation. Fans cheered Shamrock's victories, but behind those joyous roars lay a fighter grappling with the very pressures that fueled his rise. He wasn't just battling opponents in the octagon, he was wrestling with himself. And just as the dust seemed to settle, another wave was on the horizon, ready to redefine his legacy once more. Shamrock's journey was far from over, and what would unfold next in the world of MMA would expose the fractures beneath the surface, a revelation that would challenge everything he once believed about himself. The changing landscape of MMA. As the early 2000s rolled in, the landscape of mixed martial arts underwent a seismic shift, and with it, so did Frank Shamrock's dominance. Once the epitome of skill and innovation in the octagon, Shamrock suddenly found himself in a precarious situation. New legends were emerging, and they were hungry for the titles and accolades he once held close. Tito Ortiz, an explosive and charismatic fighter, was quickly making his mark in the UFC, drawing both fans and attention to a new kind of stardom. As Ortiz's popularity skyrocketed, it showcased an evolution in fight style and promotion, a stark contrast to Shamrock's methodical and classical approach. Suddenly, it felt as if Frank was fighting against time and a tide he couldn't hold back. Fans began to buzz about Ortiz's devastating power and unyielding energy, while whispers grew that Shamrock might be past his prime. With his legacy at stake, the pressure mounted. Shamrock had spent years cultivating his image as the best, but with every new opponent, doubts crept in. The champ's mental fortitude was put to the test, leading to a reflection on what it meant to be a fighter not just physically, but emotionally. In the midst of this rivalry, rumors began swirling about Shamrock's alleged struggles behind the scenes, questions about his training regimen and whether he was fully committed. Was he still the fighter who could deliver the explosive performances fans had come to adore? Or had he become someone merely trying to relive past glories? And what happened next would shock everyone. In an unexpected twist, Shamrock stepped back to confront these rumors. He found himself in the gym pushing harder than ever, not just to prove to the world but to himself that he still had what it takes. With grit and determination fueling his comeback, Shamrock aimed to reclaim his status in a world that was rapidly changing, setting the stage for a pivotal confrontation that would alter the course of his legacy forever. Chapter 4: The Fall of a Legend. Every champion faces challenges, but for Frank Shamrock, the battles became increasingly formidable as the years went by. After building a monumental legacy as one of the sport's greats, Shamrock faced a different opponent, time. The MMA landscape was evolving swiftly, with new fighters like Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell pummeling their way to the top while Shamrock's star began to dim. In the twilight of his career, injuries derailed his chances to showcase his skills. Training injuries often left him out of the octagon, while age and heightened competition began to chip away at his once indomitable spirit. Benched too often, Shamrock's momentum stalled, and the fire that once propelled him to glory flickered dimly. Yet, it was the moment he stepped into the cage against Nick Diaz in 2009, a fight that would forever alter his legacy. Despite the aura of a comeback, Shamrock entered the match overshadowed by expectation and speculation. As the fight unfolded, it became clear that the insatiable tide of youth was against him. Diaz, with his relentless pace and boxing skills, dominated the match, and for the first time, the world witnessed Shamrock, an erstwhile titan, struggling to keep his footing. Following that loss, the reverberations were felt throughout the MMA community. Supporters rallied behind Shamrock, elevating him as a fighter who had once redefined the sport. But whispers of his decline seeped through the cracks of admiration. Rumors surged that this embarrassing defeat signaled not just the end of a fight, but also the termination of an era. Shamrock grappled not only with opponents in the cage but also with demons from his past, discussing retirement and legacy. This battle turned intensely personal as fans debated whether he was holding on to the sport that had adored him or if it was time to gracefully step away. Even without the championship belts, Shamrock's struggle became emblematic of all fighters facing the universal truth: no one stays at the top forever. Navigating through a shifting landscape, Shamrock's legend began to feel untethered from the throne where he once sat, leaving many to wonder how far he would fall and what remnants of his greatness would survive. Given the tenacity of his spirit, Frank Shamrock fought his way back to the spotlight, but now he was no longer just a hero, he was a complex figure symbolizing both triumph and human vulnerability. The chapter of his fall also laid the foundation for reflections about what it means to be a legend in an ever-evolving sport. How does one reconcile their past glory with present realities? For Shamrock, the answer remained tangled in a legacy he had helped build, now intricately woven with challenges he never anticipated. Chapter 5: The Rise of the New Guard. As the curtain fell on Frank Shamrock's illustrious fighting career, a seismic shift began to ripple through the world of mixed martial arts. The new millennium ushered in what many would call the golden age of MMA, characterized by a fresh wave of fighters who were not only technically skilled but also marketable superstars in their own right. Shamrock, once the face of the sport, found himself watching from the sidelines as a new generation took center stage. Among this new guard were names that would become synonymous with the UFC: Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture, and later, legends like Georges St-Pierre. These fighters brought with them a new ethos, showcasing not just the physicality of fighting but the theatrics and charisma that drew fans in droves. While Shamrock's accomplishments made him a pioneer, the sheer magnetism and star power of these emerging fighters began to overshadow his legacy. Transitioning from fighter to commentator and coach, Shamrock took on an analytical role, critiquing the sport he once dominated. He gained insights into the strategies and nuances shaping the new era, sharing these observations with fans and aspiring fighters alike. Yet, the battle for recognition stirred a lingering frustration within him. How could someone who was so involved in laying the foundation of MMA feel like an afterthought? As these new stars rose through the ranks, they carried a sense of pride, often paying homage to the fighters who paved the way for their success. However, the focus on figures like Ortiz and Couture gradually altered the narrative surrounding Shamrock's time as champion. With each passing spectacular fight, mentions of his reign dwindled, leading to a thriving sport that rarely acknowledged its roots. Yet, irony lingered beneath the surface. The rise of social media made it easier for fans to engage and re-engage with fighters' legacies. Shamrock's new role in promoting the sport led to a resurgence of interest in his career, not just as a fighter but as a mentor and innovator who helped shape the modern beast that MMA had become. But the emergence of countless talented fighters also sparked an internal dilemma for Shamrock. Would he remain a forgotten legend, or could he leverage his experiences to reintegrate into the conversation? As he contemplated his journey, the fight for recognition ignited a fire within him to reclaim his narrative and ensure that he would not be merely a footnote in the annals of MMA history. What happened next? Well, Shamrock's fight wasn't over. It was merely the start of a new chapter. As the new guard flourished, they would face challenges, rivalries, and the ever-looming question of legacy, one that Shamrock himself had navigated years before. Would they remember him? Or would MMA continue evolving without acknowledging the pillars on which it stands? The answers would soon unfold as the sport continued to evolve before his eyes, revealing an intricate tapestry of stories that were yet to be told. Conclusion: an indelible impact. Frank Shamrock's journey through the UFC is a poignant reminder of the complexities surrounding legacy and recognition. Despite often being overshadowed by contemporary stars, Shamrock's pioneering spirit and remarkable fighting skills laid the groundwork for the sport's explosive growth and evolution. His story is not just about victories or titles, it encapsulates the struggles, personal battles, and unwavering determination of a true athlete. As MMA continues to flourish and develop its own legends, the conversations around who deserves the title of the greatest of all time would be incomplete without acknowledging Shamrock's vital contributions. His mark on the sport is undeniably profound, challenging future generations of fighters to rise to the exceptional standards he set. So, the next time you hear discussions about the greatest in MMA history, remember the name Frank Shamrock. It's a name that echoes through the annals of MMA history, ensuring his impact remains indelible.